I like that shit.
Yeah.
You just got it written on your hand. You just kind of snap it. I like that.
Yeah, man. So born and raised Chicago?
Yeah, man. Born and raised in Chicago, North Side forever. I went to high school in Albany Park. I grew up in Rogers Park. Went to elementary school in Uptown. Like, basically, I mean, I kind of bleed the North Side. You know what I mean?
Okay, this is different.
Yeah.
Every black comic I get, South Side, West Side.
That's a little bit of beef I got with you. Not beef, but like every you kind of been parroting. Like I remember I seen an episode with Derek. Shout out to Derek from Shakers.
Yeah.
What's it called? And Dave Bradley. Both of them kind of like were like shit talking North Side black people. You know.
Let me hear it, man. I like to get another perspective.
Like no disrespect to them at all, but it's like I never understood that. I've seen it my entire life. Like before I was doing comedy, I worked at Rivers Casino, and a lot of the dealers were like random, like former out west dudes and shit like that. And they would, and when I tell them I'm from the North Side, they would be like, "Oh, you from the North Side?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm from the North Side, bro. What do you mean?" Like, I don't know what it is, but for some reason, I think out south black people and out west black people feel like they have a more authentic black experience or something like that. And I think that's where it comes from. But
I can speak to that a little. My perspective of that.
Yeah.
Where I'm from, there is no north. It's California's too big.
Yes.
But I did grow up around a lot of white people, and I think that black people that grow up around other black people don't get that black people that grow up around white people have still struggled.
Yes. And I think, but I also think there's a lot of common misconceptions. Like in general, I know that there are a lot of South Side and West Side black people that never leave the South or West Side. So when they go up north, and they'll be like, "Oh, there's black people up north," and I'm like, "Yeah, like there's black people everywhere." You know what I mean? And that's a big thing. Like, Rogers Park is full of black people, and so is Uptown. Uptown's another neighborhood full of black people. You know what I mean? And even everything in between. Like, yes, there's like you got your your Hispanics, your Mexicans, your random like Albanians and other white people on the North Side, but there's niggas everywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
do you feel like? I mean. Do you feel insulted by that thought, or?
I feel insulted by that thought because it's like one of those things where indirectly it kind of takes away from what we've experienced. You know, it's I can't expect nobody to want to to respect where I've been from, but at least acknowledge that like we have a similar upbringing. Like like I have friends that have joined gangs and been killed, and and have gone to jail several times, and like. I mean, I have like the things that come with the hood. Like there are definitely hoods in everywhere. Like,
and I think what's disappointing is that's what a lot of black people associate with being black. It's like
the struggle.
Yeah, there's other good things about being black. We don't need to be all talking about killing people all the time.
You don't have to have known 3 people who are now dead or in jail. Or you don't have to know, or somebody you graduated 8th grade with died at 17. Like that doesn't have to be something that makes you like unique.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and like. I don't know what it is either. Like I said, there's tons of gangs on the North Side as well. Like I know plenty of gangs. My brother specifically is in jail right now. He's from a gang on the North Side. Like there are tons of like gang bang and shit. Like so, it's like one of those things where I just can never grasp on what makes your upbringing on the West Side. Because I live on the West Side now, so it's like, what makes your upbringing on the West Side different than my upbringing on the North Side? Like, I guarantee you, we've seen all the same things.
You black.
You get treated, you get the same weird stares when you go in the corner stores, you know what I mean? Like, you get random, even when you're a 13-year-old boy, you get random white ladies clutching their purses when you're walking down the street. Like, just because I'm right next to Loyola University in Rogers Park doesn't mean that I'm not, like, I don't got people that are, like, consider me a threat. You know what I mean?
I get you, and it's something that is frustrating, I think, sums it up.
Yeah.
In relation to comedy, because I know we were talking about that with comedy, I do believe, maybe not with black people, I'm just going to speak to the spaces. Obviously, South and West is more black.
100%.
But the spaces, I think, provide a different comedy culture.
Yes. Well, no, I would agree with you 100 million% on that, what you just said.
Okay. How from you, because you grew up out here, so you could speak to me more about it, I'm sure. What is your experience?
So for me, when it comes down to the comedy side of things, I started doing comedy in like a little after 2020 or something like that. Okay. I was working at Second City at the time. So I was a host at Second City, you know what I mean? And there was, basically as a host, all you do is seat people. You know, I'd have my little spiels because basically they give you a little notepad, and this is what you're supposed to say to when you seat someone, like, oh, talk about this, talk about that. And I've always spoken really fast. So for a lot of random white people, they just find that funny that I talk fast. Like I'm not even saying anything like humorous. And like, you know, after a while, it was just like one of those things where you randomly get people who are just like, oh, where can I see you perform? And at this time, I'm like, I don't do this. You know, I had aspirations here and there, but I guess we'll come around back to that. From getting into coming to the North Side, I've noticed like it's all white. We can say that. Like, let's be honest. Like, let's not act like the up north comedy scene is not white dominated and white focused as well. Like, I think that's also the key. It's like, because you can be the, you know. I don't know if I should say the person's name. I know he's on the podcast. His name was Marlon Hugh. Good.
His episode isn't out yet.
Yeah, I know. He told me a little bit about, like, he said some things like, he was like, nigga, watch what you say. I died so you could live. And I'm like, nah, bro, I gotta be honest. But yeah, we talk about that a lot because he's a dude from the south suburbs, I believe. And like, so he kind of sees the difference. You know, he's done a lot more black rooms than I have, and he's done a lot more white rooms, and he sees that, like, you know, basically, no matter how funny you are, they still not looking for us. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. Like, let's be honest. Like, go ahead.
He said, "I live so you can die."
What? He said, "I died." But he's talking about, like, in some of the things that he was saying. He's saying, like, he was really hammering hard on some of the things, on some of his ideals. So he was saying, "I died so you could live." Gotcha. You know what I mean?
Very
like,
Jesus-y.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, nah, nigga, you're not about to be my savior. The fuck? Like, nigga, I got 2 kids at home. I'm a grown ass man. I'm not about to like.
Okay. So I'm gonna break this down a little bit, put in my own words.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry, I know I said a lot.
You good, man. You good. That's why I keep my notepad. So you started comedy around 2020.
Yeah.
You got into it because you started working at Second City as a host.
Yes.
And people were just like, "Oh, you should do comedy."
People were just like, "Oh, you should do comedy." Yeah, and because I would just like say random dumb stuff like, you know, on a Saturday night, you know, you got your main theater that holds like 400 people. Out of those 400 people, there'd be 3 black people in the whole audience. And, you know, every time I see them, I'd say that I had the same little joke, I guess you could call it. I'd just be like, "Oh, wow, y'all the first niggas I seen all day." Yeah. And they loved that shit, you know what I mean? Like, they thought that was the funniest shit ever, you know what I mean? Because it was like, but it was me just kind of commenting on the environment. But what really was the kick for me is 2 different things. At Second City, they wanted to start doing like a talent type of show for the employees, because that's something that you get when you get working at Second City. Everybody is a creative of some kind. You know, you get a lot of motherfuckers that are into improv. You get a few that are into stand-up, but everybody ideally wants to be doing some type of performance art for a living, you know. And like Second City is just like a means to an end. But they never officially did it because I quit shortly after, but they started doing not an open mic, but more like I said, like a talent show. Whereas like if you want to do stand up, you go ahead and do stand up. You know, if you have an improv, if you have a sketch, you could go ahead and do a sketch. And then they also offer employees 1 free class. So if you work there, you know, like I said, you could take any class you want. And for me, I have always had aspirations of doing stand up. Like, this shit goes back to me being 10 and 11 watching Straight from the Foxhole by Jamie Foxx on demand on Comcast. You know what I mean? Like, that was the first comedy special that I watched on repeat. You know, not critiquing the comedy or anything like that, but it was like, wow, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, Jamie Foxx is up there singing, he's up there making these people laugh. Like, all this shit is cool. Like, I love this, you know. But so, you know, after years and years of like wanting it, but, you know, because, you know, then you hear about like people like Dave Chappelle and Martin Lawrence, some people who started very, very young, or mainly like Dave Chappelle who started like 14. I'm like, what the fuck do you have to talk about on stage at 14?
Poop,
exactly. Poop, jerking off. Like, I still tell jokes about jerking off occasionally. So I'm like, bro, I guess I could have started back then, but it would have been 25 minutes of me just talking about how I beat off 7 times today, you know?
How old are you?
I'm 26.
26. Oh, okay, dude, you're not starting too late, actually.
Really?
Yeah, no, I know it feels that way. I mean, I started performing when I was like 14, but I started doing stand-up consistently around 25.
Okay, got you.
It can feel like being in your mid-20s is, oh man, I'm an old man.
I missed out.
It feels like it, but if you just keep going, you got plenty of time. I really learned that from Abi Sanchez. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I think I've definitely heard the name.
So dude started when he was like 30.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Abi. Really? He was older than that? He was an old man relative to comedy, and now he's stick with it, and he's doing shit.
He's doing well, yeah.
So 25, man, that's a really good age. Like what you're saying about having something to say, that's, in my opinion, that's a great age to start.
Yeah, like, because for me, man, it was like I said, I had seen that. I was never the like class clown kid. That for me, when I kind of found out that I was funny, quote unquote, I never felt like I was funny. I was just that motherfucker that would just say outlandish, like raunchy shit. Yeah. And I never had a filter. And people thought that was like the funniest shit ever. And I just kind of didn't get it. Because I was like, okay, I can make this random group of people laugh by talking about how I just had this bogus interaction with this customer, you know what I mean? But how would I turn that into
a joke?
Or how would I turn that into a bit for on stage? Like, making your coworkers who know you laugh is vastly easier than making a room full of strangers laugh.
Yeah, those coworkers have rapport with you. They know who you are.
They know that they know that at any given moment Melvin gonna say some wild shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, and they're all for it. Sometimes they're like, "Whoa, he just said that," but other times they're like, "Oh, that's the funniest shit ever."
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. It's kind of like,
do you want to do this as a career? Is that the goal?
That would be the goal, ideally. You know what I mean? Because, like, man, I've worked a lot of jobs, man. Like,
yeah, you're done with the day job bullshit.
I can't, like, I mean, I'm not done with it, but I don't want to fucking. Currently, I work at FedEx office. I don't hate the job, but I don't want to work at FedEx office forever. You know what I mean? Like, I went to school for business management. Really didn't do shit with that. So it's kind of like. Yeah, man.
And you have 2 kids?
I have 2 kids. Yes, technically 3 if you really want to be technical, because I'm married. So, and my daughter and my stepdaughter, from my wife's previous relationship, is 11. Yeah.
I will start off by saying congrats to you. That I have the utmost respect that you are being around for those kids.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, it was never not an option for me. It was never like one of those things where it's like, oh fuck, honestly, both of my kids were mistakes.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Are they gonna watch this one?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe if this comedy shit takes off the way I want to, they'll look into this. But yeah, both of them were mistakes. My son, he is like 2.5. Okay. He was during the pandemic. What else is there to do? like
Tiger King and fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Tiger King, smoke and fuck. Yeah, there you go.
That's crazy.
And that's all there was. And so one day I remember my wife came in the room. We obviously weren't married at the time. And she was just like, "Oh yeah, so I missed my period." I'm just like, "Oh." And obviously, but at the time I was never like, "Oh shit, we can't have a baby." I was just like, "Oh, I guess it is what it is then."
Really?
Yeah. That has always been my mind state on kind of like. Me and my wife were very upfront with each other from the beginning of our relationship. Like, we were just like, yo, this is what I want from a relationship. This is what I seek in a person. If this is what you want, we can do this. If this is not what you want, you need to go. Yeah. And we both kind of like parroted that same energy to each other. So like when we found out like she was pregnant, I was like, okay, well, I mean, we've established like this is us. Like, this is our relationship. This is it. So I mean, it's a part of the game.
And you already had the stepdaughter.
Yeah, the stepdaughter's already around. At the time, she was 7 going on 8.
Okay, so it wasn't, I mean, I'm sure that's a crazy experience.
Yeah.
But it was like you already are together and you were locked in. So it was like, you know what, this is a path that is okay.
Yes. Right. Yes and no. Because at the end of the day, my stepdaughter's dad is somewhat present in her life still. So it's not like I took on the full role of being a father figure. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like for me and my wife, she got pregnant about 7 months into us getting together, and I was still kind of the cool friend to her daughter. You know what I mean? Like I was not the father figure. So at the time, it was kind of just like it was still jarring because, like I said, she lives in my house, and I've dedicated a part of my apartment where her daughter has a bed and like a room to sleep in. But like, I'm still not her dad, and I'm still not even playing the father figure. Like, she's with her dad every weekend. Like, her mom takes her to school. Like, I'm just kind of like hands off. Like, if she needs help with her homework, I got you. But that's like saying your local tutor at a tutoring center is your parent. Right, it's like you wouldn't say that.
It sounds like you guys have found a good deal of balance there.
Oh yeah, we did. I mean, now obviously we're talking 4 years later. Now my wife and I just made 4 years, so it's like now it's kind of like things are a little bit more kind of like in a flow of things. My stepdaughter's obviously older. Yeah. But I've definitely now that I'm an actual father, like following the birth of my son, a few months later, I'm like, okay, like. Because when you don't know this because you don't got kids, but you'll find out if you have kids.
This ain't no kid space.
This ain't a kid. I'm telling you, bro. I mean, I had an apartment very similar to this when Brittany got pregnant. That's my wife's name, Brittany, and it's not a kid space, but you don't feel like a dad at first. It take a while. you
so
know,
like a nigga with a kid.
yes, you just a nigga with a motherfucker crying, and now you can't, and now you're in the bathroom, fucking trying to pretend like you got to take a shit because you just need some space from the child,
right,
every day at 3:30 a.m. You know what I mean? But then once I start to kind of feel like a dad, then I kind of like step into that father-esque figure for my stepdaughter as well.
Yeah,
but
you how does your wife?
Yes.
How does your wife feel about this desire for comedy? Because I know that's not considered stable.
Okay, yes, and I think so. I'm gonna be honest. My wife is supportive, like she is, but at the same time, she's very hesitant. And I mean, and I understand where she comes from. Like I've mentioned my brother before. My brother was an aspiring rapper. When he was 16, he had a couple songs that did really, really well. Like one of the videos hit like 1 million very quickly. Another one hit like almost 1 million. And at least when the Chicago drill shit was big, he was a big deal for a small period of time. But after he ended up going to jail and things kind of just completely went downhill for him musically. He kept making music, but you see the numbers going down.
Making music from jail?
No, not making music. No,
it's like impressive.
We tried to keep that going, but like it didn't really work too well. You know what I mean? It's much harder than you think it is. But yeah, like I saw that with him. Like I saw his numbers go down. Like he post a video. He paid $300 to get this nice video made, and it gets 20K views on YouTube. Like, oh, okay. And then he posts another video. That video got 7K views, and I'm just like, oh shit. And this is all before me doing stand up. So I'm just like, but this is very similar. Like I don't know how the stand up thing goes, but I can imagine something like this.
Stand up and rap.
Yeah.
They're not intertwined, but they're twin flame.
Yes.
They're very similar experiences. I think that's why rappers and comedians get together so well. Yeah, man, that's good to be aware of.
Yeah, it was.
This is a fickle and cutthroat game.
Yes.
I learned that a lot more aggressively when I moved to Chicago. Like this is real. Like this is when you lose a show or you lose a gig, you lose money.
Yes.
And that's something that when you start at an open mic, it's like, oh, we're all hanging out and drinking, telling each other crazy, guys. And then when money gets involved, you're like, oh shit, nigga, I gotta pay rent.
Yes, exactly. And this was gonna pay rent, like.
Yeah.
And now that I missed the show, or things didn't go as well, now they may not want to book me. How am I gonna pay for stuff? And.
So you're 2 years?
I'm a little about 2 years in.
How are you in terms of getting booked? And how are you feeling 2 years in? Because that's very you're new.
Yes, extremely new. I try to do my best to be like a student of the game. Like we were talking a little bit before this about how like I've seen both of Vic's episodes.
Yeah.
I've talked to Vic Pondra very extensively, just about like anything he's willing to tell me. Like I'm like, hey bro, how do I kind of do this shit? Also, first person that ever gave me any legit comedy advice, shout out to James Fisher Jr.
His episode's out.
Yeah, his episode's out. I really enjoyed it. He's a super funny dude. He was actually, I kind of like tried to roast him a little bit at my first open mic ever.
Hold on, let's do the thing. So at your first open mic, you tried to roast James Fisher Jr. How did that go?
So basically he got on stage, he did really well, and it was at Pressure Billiards in Rogers, which is in like it's like the beginning of Edgewater neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever been or you ever heard of it.
I have.
Okay, cool. So I had went on their final show. I had no idea. I had just found out about like the Chicago stand-up page on Facebook. And I went there. He came up on stage, was talking. I remember, I walked in. I looked to my right. He was wearing a red and black shirt. To this day, I still remember. And so was his motherfucking dog. His dog also had a red and black shirt on. So I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. You know what I mean? So like, and I think when I got on stage, I did I went way after him. But when I got on stage, I made fun of the fact that I want to be the blackest person in the room. Or tried to say some stuff like that, because there were a few other, like, I think Aaron McDavis was there, and there were a couple other black comics that were there, but it was still mostly, like, white comics. And I made some jokes about trying to be the blackest in the room, and I was just like, I know that nigga with the little white woman dog ain't more black than me, and, like... But he was very, he laughed at it. He wasn't offended or anything like that, but it was like... And then a little bit later on, like, maybe about 2 or 3 months in, I'm like, so... it can't just be open mics every week forever, right? Like, this is what I'm thinking to myself. So I'm like, I literally just messaged him on Instagram. I'm like, hey dude, like, I know I'm new to this shit. How do I get into shows? He was just like, hey man, like, get you a really good, he basically told me, get you a decent 5-minute clip that, where it shows that, like, you can make people laugh, you also have decent material, and start sending it to anybody that will, like, open the message. And he was like, And that was the advice that I took. Like, I took that advice instantly from him. So, even 4 months in, when I was doing terrible material, I'm not doing much better material now, but it's vastly better than it was back then.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still, recording anything I can and be like, oh, here you go. Like, I'd like to be considered for your showcase. You know what I mean?
And how did that go so far?
Now, I would say I am grateful for. I get a decent amount of stuff based on what I put into the scene. Mm-hmm. Like, I think a few people kind of know who I am, like, but I'm not at open mics every week. Like, I had a show at Laugh at Uptown on Saturday, but before that, I hadn't been on stage since September. I had for the show that I produce. You know what I mean? So, like, the scene kind of gives me what I feel like. In some instances, the scene gives you what you put into it. Mm-hmm. So the people that you see who are on those flyers all the time, like a place like the Lincoln Lodge, those are people who are at the Lincoln Lodge 3-4 times a week, hanging out, drinking, cracking jokes, talking shit. Like, I got kids, I got a job, like, I got a wife, like, I got things outside of comedy that are important to me. So, the social aspect, I know you've mentioned this too in other podcasts, the social aspect is very difficult. Because I've also seen very early on, from the first few open mics I did, a motherfucker will do their time and leave. And that was mind-blowing to me.
Really? What?
Really, because I had been to open mics before. I was a frequenter of the YCA open mic in Wicker. It is in... It's not Wicker Park, but it is. You know where the Den Theater is?
Yes.
It is like 3 blocks away from the Den Theater, over there on near Division.
Okay.
And it is a like hip hop kind of open mic. So you get a lot of.
Is it still going on?
I don't honestly know.
If it is, please let me know.
I'll definitely link you to it. But it's like Young Chicago Authors, like is the YCA. It used to be every Tuesday at like 7 p.m. But it was like I said, hip hop. So you got rappers, you got singers, you got poets, and like So and they would have a solid audience, you know what I mean? They would, and I was one of them. Like, I'm not performing. I'm coming because, I just kind of want to see what's going on in the music scene, what's going on in the music, like, in Chicago, like, and you discuss. So when I got into comedy, it was like, okay, it's gonna be just like that. Like, they're gonna be people who, no, exactly. I see y'all can't see him, but he nodding off camera, like.
No, nigga, there ain't no people at open mics.
Exactly, ain't nobody at open mics. And from the first one, I realized that because, like I said, I think I was like 19th, and since it was the final open mic, they were giving motherfuckers like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, like. And me and my wife got there at 9. We left. I didn't go on stage till 12:30. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think I got a little lucky because it was the last one. People were sticking around, but there were definitely a ton of motherfuckers who did their little time and left. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, so how do I know if I'm funny or not? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and it still took me a while to kind of figure it out. I was like, oh, like. And then at first I realized, open mics are for comedians. They're not really for your public audience, And
yeah, it's not like learning an instrument where you can sit in your room and practice it.
Yeah.
You have to go and even if you're in front of a room full of comics, just saying it out loud, I don't know, you can piece together like, okay, was this actually funny or not? Yeah. And anytime you're in front of a room full of comics and you hear a joke and then ha! It's like, okay, that'll be really funny in front of regular humans.
Yes, exactly.
You've talked about the North Side, and
I'm sorry, dude. Real quick, let me apologize. I talk a lot and I talk very fast. Yeah. And I know I'm kind of like I'm ramble. I tend to ramble, so I'll like jump from one topic to another.
It's all good.
So I'm really sorry if this is like all over the fucking place.
No, you good, man. That's why I write shit down because I won't be able to keep up. But speaking of talking fast, is that Are you nervous, or is that just how you speak? Like, what's going on there?
It's not a nervous thing for me, man. It's like, it's how I can, like, for me, it's always how I've spoken. Yeah. Even middle school, like, hey, Melvin, you talk, like, teachers are telling me, Melvin, you talk really fast. Yeah. And I'm like, it's just kind of how I talk, Like, I have to consciously slow down. Like, I have to think about it like, hey, slow down, you know what I mean? Because I don't know if it's because I'm a little ADHD or some shit like that, dude, but, like, my mind is going at, like, 10,000 miles an hour most of the time.
How does it affect your comedy?
Sometimes I would say very positively, and then sometimes I would say very negatively. Because I have, I've perused the internet, and I've, like, posted stand-up clips on random fucking Reddit forums and things like that. Just kind of see, and it's the main comment that I get, even when I did my stand-up class back in the day at Second City, the main comment was slow down. You know what I mean? And like I said, I tried to consciously, like, embed that, but, like, it's still hard because, like, how you gonna tell me like I need to slow down, but then you also gonna tell me I need to be myself on stage?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and sadly, in most cases, me being myself on stage is me talking like fucking tongue twister in 1992 and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
I think over time, I think over time you'll figure out how to make. If you just keep going, you'll figure out how to make your voice work. Like, I spoke really fast when I first started as well. And then I realized over time that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Like, I would get on stage, and in my head, my logic was, if I talk really fast and I hit a punchline and it's quiet, it's okay because I'm still talking.
Yes. Like,
but I didn't realize that it made me come off like I was scared. And
I've heard that as well.
Yeah. It makes it come off. Whether you're, I don't know what's inside your head, but whether you're nervous or not, it comes off nervous. And so I think there's a way to tweak, but I think that's just going to be time.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. You know what I mean? Because as depending on what I'm talking about, like I said, if you get me rambling, that's when I really start talking fast. Because I'm just like this.
Yeah.
But it's like if I'm concise, like asking one concise question, I can slow down and be like, and that's something that I feel like I'm slowly starting to achieve. Like I'm very much trying to focus on just being in the moment. And when I first got into comedy, when I was talking to my barber was like he claimed he was a rapper. He never would tell me where any of his music was, and he claimed he never actually released anything, but he was a rapper. And he was just like, hey bro, you need to make sure you know your material front to back, and regardless of how many people is in that motherfucking room, you perform like it's 1,000 people in there. And I took that the complete wrong way. I took that as I need to know every single thing I'm going to say. Even if I've never tried this joke before, I need to be able to anticipate where people may laugh, if they do laugh. And like, it led to me kind of just like a lot of rushing on stage. But I feel like after taking a break and doing the show on Saturday, I'm like, okay, I'm doing okay. Like, I'm not, and I'm rewatching the video, I'm like, okay, people are understanding what I'm saying. People are hearing me. People are missing things because I'm talking too fast. And that was something my first stand-up teacher said what happened. He was like, it's not, whether you sound nervous or not, people are just gonna miss it. You know, you could have said you could have had the funniest tag ever, the funniest punchline ever, but if you're talking at 45 miles an hour, 3 people in a room might catch it. Yeah. And then one person might actually laugh, you know, so. Yeah.
I'm with you. It's, it takes tweaking and it just takes doing it, you know? Like, I think if you can find comfort in silence, you have a real strength.
Yes.
Real strength, because a lot of people are afraid of silence.
I'm still. You are not the first person to tell me that, because like I said, I've tried to do my best to learn from older comics as much as I can, because I'm one of those people where it's like I want to do whatever I'm doing to the best of my ability. So I'm always like open to like hearing at least other people's perspectives, you know. And so I think you're 100% right. You know, like early on I was terrified because I'm just like, if people aren't laughing, you're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, but then I realized, like, no, people don't always have to laugh. Like, if you treat being on stage more like you're kind of just inviting people into your world, every single thing you say isn't going to be funny.
Yeah, it's almost sometimes. This is very much a sometimes.
Please. Okay. I appreciate that.
Sometimes it's really good when the audience isn't laughing. And you can feel the difference between they're not laughing because they're disengaged versus they're not laughing because they're really engaged. Like, they want to hear what you're saying. Yes. Chappelle is the best example of it, who is like not necessarily, especially in his older age, he's not necessarily making jokes all the time, but people are locked the fuck in. Yeah. I would say, if I were to give a tip about it, I haven't really watched your stand-up, but I would say next time you're at a mic or you're playing around with it, talk how you talk, and then give it a second of silence and just see what happens.
Yeah, kind of just observe.
Just
for sure.
Feel like, okay, you were talking, stop, and I promise you the audience will be like, oh shit,
what just happened?
What the fuck is he about to say now? Like, he was just talking a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that might be helpful. Maybe something to consider.
I'll definitely take that in consideration. I appreciate that shit.
Of course, man. And then you were talking about Marlon Hugh, talked about James Fisher Jr. and so on and so forth. There is, like we've established, South Side, West Side, North Side, and being black and all of that. Have you found a a crew, a people? Like, do you feel like you fit that?
I'm not cliquey, man, to be honest with you. Like I've never kind of been cliquey. Like, even in the day, like, it's like me and one other person. And at this point, me and that other person is my wife. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, she's the one, like, she's my solidarity, but at the same time, she's my biggest critic. She, like, sometimes I feel like it's to a fault. Like, I'm like, oh, that joke went really. She's like, no, it didn't. And I'm like, okay, thank you, because she's not an outright a comedy fan. Like, she enjoys it when we go. If it's an actual show, she hates open mics. Because, you know what I mean? Like,
it's awful.
It's awful, you know what I mean? Because you just see a lot of people up there just eating shit, you know what I mean? And that's, even though that's a part of the game, it's just what you see, But when you watch 20 comics all talk about killing themselves, you know what I mean? It's kind of just like, I've heard enough.
That's a Northside trope.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I've gone to Riddles a few times. And Riddles is the only place I've been to on the South Side to do comedy. And the amount of depressed people on the North Side who try to, like, make their depression funny, but who still sound very concerning is, like, immense. And like I said, I'm from the North Side, so I've done nothing but North Side mics. I used to frequent the Glenwood open mic, and that was a lot of the vibe there. Like, a lot of those, like, hipster-esque white people, just, like, talking about being depressed and talking about how, like, they're this close to killing themselves, and, like,
look at all these scars I have. Isn't that hilarious?
Exactly. Like, isn't it so funny that, like, I was this close to jumping off a fucking building? Like, no, bro.
Very sad.
Maybe the first 30 seconds it was funny. Like, very.
I think I have a theory, and not to say, let me preface.
Yeah, go for it.
Obviously, mental health is a complicated thing,
and I respect people's mental health, and I'm never gonna, like, try to shit on anybody for wanting to talk about their mental health. I'll throw it out there.
Yeah, we'll start there. Mid foundation. This is in good faith, but there is a thing with white comics where it's almost like they want a struggle to present.
Yes, and it's not even just with white comics. Oh my God.
Please go.
Don't even get me fucking started. I know a bunch of privileged white people who have nothing better going on in their life, so they're so invested in shit that doesn't concern them. Like,
please elaborate.
Okay, I'm not gonna mention no names, but because just in case those few people might see these.
That's very smart.
Yeah,
some people don't have that thought process. When
you never know what you might say, but like, I know someone who is very well off. Her and her family are very well off, but she is one of those people where, like, when something new about, like, for example, what's going on in Palestine comes out, she's one of those people that goes on Instagram and talks about how she won't be able to sleep tonight because a hospital full of children was just bombed, on the other side of the world. And I'm just like, man, lady, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay rent this month, and you know what I mean? Like, so I can't focus on what's going on over there. I need to focus on what's going on here. But I also feel like you get comics like that too, who kind of, like, channel that, where, like, they have nothing better else going on, but they have a decent job. They're not struggling to pay anything. Like, so they to feel relatable, they want to show that they're vulnerable, and I feel like that's where the wanting to kill, like, the depression stuff comes in. Like I said, I know some of these people are actually clinically depressed and probably are on meds and probably see therapists and all types of stuff like that. But for a lot of those people, I feel like they're just looking, like you said, for some struggle to throw out there.
And it's something that the audience, whether they realize it or not, the audience picks up on it. Like, if, for example, if I know that it seems like the people that listen to this podcast are open micers generally.
Yeah.
And if you're an open micer and you're concerned, or you're hearing this and you're thinking, oh no, what if they see through my, then you're the guy who's doing that.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, like, no, this is really what I care about. This is authentic. I think it has to be authentic to whoever the fuck you are.
I agree, 1,000%.
So I guess to transition to that, I wish I got some of your comedy, man. I wish I got to see more of it. But
if you want to, if you have a couple minutes after the podcast, I can show you some clips from the Laugh It Up show. Like, that show went really well, and, like, the audience was great.
It would give me some context. I should have asked that beforehand, but
I can give you. For a lot of my material, a lot of the material that I like to do is I like to talk about my family, my kids. My kids are, I also kind of like. I'm kind of like a little bit of a roasty kind of comic. Like, I kind of like to talk shit. Like, it's how I came up. Like, if you had on a pair of dirty ass shoes, somebody gonna call you out for having them dirty ass shoes on.
This is very true. I remember it hurt my feelings a lot.
Exactly. Some people don't be ready for it.
But no, that's good, man. I look forward to seeing it. I think it's about a good trap to not fall into is writing about where you truly are coming from, and being aware of, and being able to point out like, oh, that person's not lying or faking, but they are. Sorry.
No, you good, dude.
They are taking. It's like, this is outside your lane, man. Why the fuck are you talking about Gaza if you really aren't knowing about that shit?
Yeah, like even if you do know about that shit, but if you know that you and your family are good to go, like why is that not enough for you? Like, you know, like there are people that are, lots of white people that are genuinely, or lots of privileged people, not just white people, but lots of mainly white people who are just looking for some struggle. And I hate it so fucking much.
Why do you think that happens?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it's for the same reason that like I don't want to say no. I'm not gonna say her name, but like one of my brother's ex-girlfriends, like both of her parents are rich. Like they literally give her whatever she wants to, but like she had like ended up in like as like a drug addict in a rehab. And I'm just like, how do you have the world and then like, you know, throw it away?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, maybe it's a perspective that I only can take because I didn't have that shit, you know? Like, I definitely, you know, I definitely grew up on Section 8, you know? My motherfucking allowance every month was $20 if I got one. So, you know, like, I definitely grew up not having shit. So it's like, to see another person grow up where the complete opposite way, but to see that they are a lot more fucked up than I am, it's like, how, bro?
I'm going to check myself here.
Go ahead.
And maybe acknowledge some hypocrisy. I'll speak on my part.
Feel free.
Remember in the beginning when we were talking about black Southsiders and Westsiders perceiving Northside black people, or maybe someone from like me from California, from the burbs, thinking like, nigga, your life easy. My crack addicted uncle did such as he stole the Thanksgiving turkey on Thanksgiving. It's like, it's tough because on one hand, I think what you're saying is valid, and what we've talked about specifically white people seeing other things and be like, I want some, give me some of that struggle so I have something to talk about.
Like, gosh, I'm not going to sleep tonight because of this shit.
Right. At the same time, we might be doing what those Southsiders do to us right now.
You're probably right.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, we're sounding like the people we were just criticizing.
I agree.
I'm trying to. It's a balancing act.
It is. It's like one of those things where it's a touchy subject.
Sure.
You know? It's definitely kind of like playing with fire a little bit, you know.
Good. I have another. You ready for a straightforward question?
Yes, go for it, dude.
So you're new to comedy.
Yes.
You do watch the podcast. You've seen a fair amount of episodes. What inspires you to reach out to do this?
This might be, I mean, everything we're doing as comedians is self-interested. You know what I mean? And nobody likes nothing more than to talk about themselves.
That's fair.
But for me, it was like one of those things where I have never spoken to you. I've seen you in a few different spots, but you and I have never spoken. I know you have your thing, so you may not remember this.
Oh, shit, you remember the thing I don't remember.
Yes, I do remember. I've seen enough episodes to know that you probably don't remember who the fuck I am.
That's a real fan right here.
Until I message you, yeah. I remember one of the first times I encountered you.
Okay.
My wife and I, because I used to work at the FedEx office in Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
So I used to work about 5 minutes away from Shakers.
Okay.
It was on a Monday night. You were at Shakers, and like I got off work at like 7. You know, the open mic doesn't even start for another hour, but like just get there early. And I was like, who's that? There was like, you were the first black person in the audience that gave me like some school shooter energy. and I'm just like, who's that nigga in the corner just kind of like doodling in his notebook and shit like that, you know? And then you got him on stage, you told some jokes about like getting choked up by doing no arms. I'm just like, oh, this nigga's dope, you know what I mean? Like, I love the perspectives that he's like offering, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but like I said, we had never actually spoke. It was like you were the first, you kind of announced like, yo, welcome to Shakers, yada, 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 you know, making some noise for your host. You did your little 5 minutes, you got the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? Which is no issue because I get it. I do the same thing. But like, and then I came to Shakers, I think like a weekend, like not the next week, but then the next week after that. And it was kind of like the same thing. And then I think one other time I saw you was at the Take a Shot open mic in Uptown. Don't get me started on that shit. I might burn some bridges if I talk about that damn open mic.
I'll give you that's your option.
I'll leave that alone. But yeah, I saw you there, and I think that was one time where I performed before you. So I think you were around to like see it, but you didn't. You know.
I wasn't locked in, probably.
Which is fine. You know what I mean? It's a 3-minute open mic with you have no room to do anything really. But
3 minutes is.
3 minutes is disrespectful, man. Let's be honest. 3 minutes is fucking disrespectful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I try to treat 3 minutes like No riffing, no playing. Does this joke work? Does this joke work? Does this joke work?
Yeah, mics like that are the reason why, like, I still go in the bathroom and time every minute of my sets, where I like pull out my watch, boom, what I wrote. Don't stray from what you wrote. Read it. How long does it take you to read it? Oh, 45 seconds. Okay, if I go to a mic like that, I can do this 45 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess it's good to have that discipline a little bit. Because then it helps you kind of shape your sets. Like if somebody says, "Oh, Aaron, I need you 15 minutes." Oh, this bit about deaf people doing cocaine is 3 minutes. Like this, like, and all types of stuff. So it helps you kind of like, for me, it helps me compartmentalize. But I like to, like I said, I try to still be more present on stage too. So I don't want to like be too locked into the bit about liking G-MILFs is 2 minutes. The bit about, my stepdaughter asking me dumb questions is a minute and a half. I try to like not get too grounded on, not to get too focused on that, but still kind of like have that in mind. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. The balance between being organized and prepared and also loose and present.
Yes, exactly. And that's where I constantly try to like get into, especially because, like I said, I'm not at these open mics every week. If I'm lucky, I'll do like 2 or 3 open mics in a month. For a lot of comics, they do an open mic. They do 2 or 3 open mics in a day, and like props to them. But like my life just isn't at that point where I kind of have the freedom to just do that,
Is there a way, like, I'll start off with this first. Do you want to do more open mics?
Yes and no, in all honesty.
Okay. Because
I think you can attest to this too. You go to a show with an actual audience, things that are not funny are funny to them. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you could just say something away and like they love it. You go to an open mic, and another thing that I've kind of learned is like, initially I was told early on, hey, shop your jokes around to different open mics. You don't change anything you do, just go to a different open mic with a different set of people, and I guarantee you there might be a difference. And in some instances that's true, but then in other instances that's not. And I've noticed for some of my bits that I've done at open mics, they're okay. I go in front of a regular audience, they're even better. But then there's some bits where like they suck at open mics, and I've tried them in front of like a regular audience, and it's great. You know what I mean? So I feel like, and at a time, like I feel like open mics are part socializing, part like practicing your jokes. And I think it's more important that you are meeting people rather than it is. That's why, to go all the way full circle, why I reached out to you is about meeting people. It's about reaching out. You know what I mean? It's about having valuable conversations with people, because those are the things that stick with people.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, if you've heard it, then I'm sure I've said this to some degree, but this is why I like this podcast. It gives me the opportunity to like, no distractions. There's not a bunch of shit going on. I could just talk to get a feel for a person.
Yes.
And I have, I'm actually going to be tightening up soon. You came in at the right time. I'm going to be tightening up not how many people I let on the podcast, but people I don't necessarily know. I'm going to be tightening that up a bit.
That's fair.
But I have the utmost respect for you to reach out.
Yes. And even if you would have said no, like, it's your fucking podcast, dude. I'm not going to, like, hate you because you said no.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Like, I know there are people who will be like, what, you don't want me on your podcast? I perform at the Laugh Factory every weekend. I guarantee you, you have people like that. But, like...
It's tough because it's nothing personal.
And I think what people don't really realize, and I think it comes a lot from you dealing with comedians from the North Side scene. For me, I was like in elementary school and middle school, and even after I graduated college, I spent a lot of time around a lot of street dudes. So it's like, I understand you don't want to just be, to me, it's like, I wouldn't just want to be giving my address out to random motherfuckers in the city.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's like the biggest, especially strangers. Like, I don't give a fuck if you're a fellow comedian who's hilarious. That don't mean you can't, there might not be a time in the future where you having my address is detrimental to me.
Yeah, you're making me regret this decision.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you definitely should regret this decision, nigga. Like, I'm going to be posted up outside this bitch. Like,
no, but yeah, that's 100% right, and it's something that, on my end of things, I need to work on. I need to set boundaries that are a little clearer. I'm very happy that I had you on and that you are reasonable and you're not a murderer.
Yes. No, I'm not gonna kill you. Like, my wife and the new baby are outside. I'm not gonna kill nobody.
Yeah. You have shit to do.
Yes, exactly. At least for now.
That's appreciated. But I am happy that you got on. And speaking of Northside, all the stuff, you've only been to Riddles?
Yeah, Riddles is the only Southside spot I've been to. I've been twice, I believe. It's just so out of the way, man.
Yeah.
I have a car and it's still out of the way. Like,
it sure is.
Yeah, like what's it called? Shout out to Will. He's a cool dude. Like he was the host for the first show that we produced.
Yeah.
He hosted. He's always shown me a lot of love. He's always like, if I got questions, if I got anything, I can just ask him. He's been very welcoming to me, even though we really don't know each other like that. So shout out to him.
He's a very nice guy.
Very nice guy. Very funny guy.
He did the podcast, but then the audio got fucked up.
That's the worst.
Yeah. He's in that photo album.
Yeah.
But I would suggest. Yeah, we're good. I would suggest Bar 10. Mm-hmm. Have you heard about Bar 10?
I think so, yes.
And we'll talk about it. Bar 10 and Sheldon Calhoun's spot. Okay. Do you know Sheldon?
No, I don't.
When you get a chance, check him out on Instagram. He has I think it's monthly now in the West Side. Those are two spots. And Funny at Francis, though I've only been once. It was not fun. Oh, Jesus Christ. But
can you elaborate? Why wasn't it fun? Can you please let me know? So I need to know what to avoid.
I wouldn't say avoid it, though.
Okay.
I would. The reason I suggest Bar 10 and Funny at Francis is because they're very difficult. Mm-hmm. There's an aggression from the audience. If I'm being honest, I think in a lot of ways, those particular audiences almost are excited to see you bomb.
Yes,
like
I can
these,
see that.
These niggas love to watch a bomb.
Like, did you see what this dumbass nigga was up there talking about?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you something to say, but it is good for toughening yourself up. Mm-hmm. It's a different style. It's a different audience, and it in terms of networking, you have comics out there that really are doing this shit, and I would highly suggest it. Mm-hmm. It's Funny at Francis. It's in. I don't even know what street it's on. It's close to the Wild Hundreds.
Oh man, I mean, my mama lives on 79th, so it's like it's not super far.
You know the area.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
It's probably around there. And my experience, Nick, a bunch of shit happened. I signed up wherever I signed up, and they were like, "All right, Aaron Chase, come on up." Yeah, and I get up. I didn't even get words out, and one of the comics to the right of me heckles me immediately.
The comics?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, nigga.
I don't give a fuck.
Come on, bro.
Like, look at his shoes. and like half of this side is talking over me and talking shit, and then the other half is trying to hear me but can't hear me.
Yeah.
I'm flustered as fuck. At some point I get I've gotten much better at this, but I'm like, you just suck my dick. I said what I want. Like it was a wild one. But those spaces, as frustrating as they can be, I do think are helpful in a space. Like you don't get the same energy from the North Side. You're not gonna find it there. And these rooms exist in the country, and you need to know how to deal with them. Yes,
exactly. Because if you want to really do this shit, you eventually gonna end up in one of them rooms where, like, no matter how funny your 30-minute set is gonna be, they might not fuck with a second of it. If you come off the wrong way,
you gotta deal with it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely a student of comedy in that way, where I love comedy podcasts, like the Top Billing podcast, something I watch all the time with Bill Bellamy, and like he's and that's something that he talks about too when he talks about like early in the 90s, like the Peppermint Lounge in New Jersey and shit like that. It was like, if you didn't come the right way, motherfuckers was booing you 30 seconds in. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, that's something that you would only get at like a black club, because like, or a black focused space. You know what I mean? And it's intimidating, I must say, because like I said, it's not about I'm scared to be around black people. It's like I'm scared to do my comedy around black people, because I can make niggas at my job laugh all day long. That's easy. You know what I mean? But the random niggas on the street who don't know me, and I'm sitting here talking about like how like the best way to pull like a woman in her 70s, they gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Yeah, like, what is this weird nigga talking about?
And there is I would say, this is my own experience of it. At first, I was trying to mold to it a little too much. I was trying to adjust to it too much. And then I think I've hit a space where I'm like, okay, I know what I'm saying is, I can tell when what I'm saying is not funny, sincerely, and what I'm saying is funny. And I know y'all just don't relate. Yeah. And sometimes that's okay. Yeah. And I think it's overcoming a fear, and then when you go into the North Side, you're that much stronger.
Yes, I think you're 100% right. Those tougher rooms are where it's at, and I definitely want to like start doing more of them.
Yeah. All right. You ready for the last question?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Do you know what it is? Because I know you've seen the podcast. I don't know if you ever see the end.
Oh, yeah. Typically at the end, you'll kind of do one of those things where like, oh, nigga, what do you want to do in 5 years?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
All right.
I got you.
So, okay. So, yeah, this is the camera for 5 years from now. You can say whatever you want to yourself 5 years from now. What do you want to say to yourself?
Hopefully you hopefully there's an upward mobility. You know what I mean? Like you're doing a little bit more than you were doing now, because that's all you could ever ask for. You know, taking off like a motherfucking like rocket ship isn't realistic. It's more like climbing up a mountain, where it's a slow and gradual process. So if you are in a better place then than you are now, you did something right, my nigga.
All right, let's take this picture.
Okay, cool. Oh.